Welcome to another episode of Axe of the Blood God, an independent RPG podcast. I'm your host, Kat Bailey. Joining me, as always, my lovely co-host, Nadia Oxford.
Hello, Kat. We were just having a pretty lively conversation in the pre-show. I said, "What did I say? I didn't build society, bitch." Like,
That's exactly what you said.
People were like,
new motto,
giving me beef about my sleep schedule and how, like, oh, you got to sleep at a regular time and this night. I used to do service work at night, and like I said, bitch, I didn't invent society. You can't tell me like to go to sleep at a certain time if I'm working because someone decided we have to work at night. It wasn't me.
Also joining my equally lovely co-host, Eric Van Allen.
My hot take was that Tuxedo Mask is low tier. That dude.
That's crap.
He has a whole meme about him doing nothing. He shows up and does nothing. Like that's.
Well, my work here is done. You didn't do anything.
No. Tuxedo Mask low tier for me among the shoujo heroes of the era.
Well, here at Axe of the Blood God, our work is never done talking about RPGs, and we have plenty to react to this week. Specifically, the announcement of the PS5 Pro. It's happening. It's happening.
It's happening, GIF.
Yep, it's happening, .gif. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the uproar over the price point and all of that jazz. So please look forward to it. And of course, we'll be doing our random encounters in the tavern. And Nadia will be sharing something, a story from the pit or the nook. I don't know. It could be wholesome and healthy. You never know.
It goes where it goes. I try to stay wholesome, but it just makes it worse.
But then, just mysteriously, she grabs the wheel and steers right into the pit.
Like there's a bee in the car.
We'll get to all of that in just a moment, but first of all, if you enjoy the show, please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/bloodgodpod, where for just $1 a month, you can get access to the show ad-free and also join our Discord. And at higher tiers, you get access to lots of bonus content, including the Pantheon of the Blood God. We're in the process of our very first Pandemonium. If Pantheons are RPG heaven, then Pandemoniums are RPG hell. And this month, we are playing Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood, and we're all having a great time talking about it over on the Discord. So sign up and come on over. You only need to be at $1 a month, though the Pantheon is available to our $10 listeners. We're also joined by our Stars of Destiny over on the Discord, and this week, Anthrax Bees is here, as is Drew RWX, Harvest Lunatic, Kara313. Hey Kara, it's great to see you.
Hi.
Laguna Matata 124, Mango Alts, Sardin, and Spooky Man BR. Thank you so much for your generous support. And one more PSA. We stream a lot over on twitch.tv/bloodgodpod. In fact, we're streaming on Twitch right the heck now. If you're watching, come on over. We usually start around 9:30 a.m. Pacific on Saturdays. But we have a couple other streaming projects going. One, Eric's been streaming Final Fantasy VI. And we'll be getting to that a little bit later, unless you want to share an update right now, Eric.
No,
save it for the tavern.
Save it for the tavern. Save it for the tavern. We're also playing Baldur's Gate 3, and we just did our second episode this past Wednesday, and we plan to continue that somewhat regularly. So please, twitch.tv/bloodgodpod, like and subscribe. Okay, time now to talk about the big news this week, which is PS5 Pro. It was finally revealed. It's coming out November 7th. It will be a cool $700 American dollars, and even more if you live in Europe. In Japan, everybody was pretty stunned by the price, not the least because it will be releasing with no disk drive and no vertical stand. Both are sold separately.
I love the stand.
LOL. Eric, reacts, please.
Oh, man.
I kind of expected it to be this price point, but that doesn't really take away from the shock of it. But
yeah,
more than that, you mentioned it's not coming with a disk drive. It's not coming with all this different stuff. It's also coming alongside a price hike on the DualSense, which that secretly went up by $5 at various retailers right before this announcement. And that showcase, it was a lot of games we'd seen before. They didn't have anything new to show this is how good this future game is going to look on the PS5 Pro. It was a lot of hey, remember how we remastered The Last of Us Part 2, that game for the PS5? Again? Well, remember how you had to choose between fidelity and frame rate? Now you don't. Congratulations. And that's it. And if nothing else, this combined with shout outs to friend of the show, Ken Shepard, who wrote this piece about Astrobot being there are so few PS5 exclusive characters in Astrobot, which is bizarre. We are years into this generation at this point, yes, and they don't really have a ton of exclusive characters they can point to. I'm still surprised that Clive apparently is not in that game. I would have thought that would have been a Sherlock, but it really emphasizes the point that this has been a very awkward year, very awkward generation for Sony, and the PS5 Pro just makes it all the more obvious that they're being well, Astrobot, and Astrobot's great. We can talk about Astrobot in the tavern, but they don't have a ton of stuff that they're showing off right now, and really they're just kind of showing this back catalog of games and being well, did you dislike the fact that you had to pick between 60 frames per second and high fidelity? Well, now pay us $700 and you don't. And that's the pitch, and it'll probably work for some people, but if you are that person, congratulations on having a lot of extra spending money that does not go towards your rent or anything.
Yeah, seriously.
I have a counterpoint on Sony. I think they're doing just fine this generation. The PS5 is matching or exceeding the PS4's pace in terms of sales, and the PS5 is already one of the best-selling consoles ever. They consistently have a pretty solid tentpole release every single year. No, they haven't been able to launch a lot of new franchises, but the games that they are putting out are turning out to be very popular. And they're having a lot of surprise hits, like Helldivers 2 is frankly a pretty big win for them that kind of came out of nowhere. Everybody's going to be focused on Concord, but Helldivers 2 is the counterpoint to that. And, they benefit a lot from the fact that Xbox has self-owned itself into oblivion, just self-immolated for this entire generation. So
yeah, in
many ways, Sony is just winning by default by getting all of the third-party exclusives and things like that. Just think about last year, where Baldur's Gate 3 became a de facto timed exclusive on the PlayStation 5 because the Xbox Series X, because it didn't run well on the Xbox Series S. And this, we don't know what the heck is happening with Black Myth Wukong, but that's another game that became a timed exclusive. And so whenever the big 30-party games come out, invariably they seem to be on PS5 first and PC.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of like
Sony's
that
laughing
meme.
all the way to the bank.
Luigi does nothing and he wins at Mario Party. You're right. Like, just kind of getting a lot of stuff by default. There was a bit of an incident. A friend of the show, John Linneman of Digital Foundry. I don't know exactly where he got the screenshots of the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like, up-res, I suppose, but he was saying how much better the picture quality is on the PS5 Pro. And everyone kind of went bananas, because I think he worded it in a way that people were thinking he was saying that the game looks terrible on the PS5, which it doesn't. If you want to choose between 60 frames per second and fidelity, yes, you're going to get that kind of blurry look, which most people, if you care, you're the one who's going to buy a PS5 Pro. I didn't care. I was just like, okay, I'm playing 60 frames per second. I know it's not as good as it could look, but I want that steady frame rate. I don't want to risk any motion sickness or anything like that. And it was fine. So, yeah, people had very strong opinions about that, and we definitely saw the difference between people who spend a lot of money on making their games look fantastic and running really, really well, and the console trash like myself who are like, I don't care if Kyle looks like he's been dunked in Vaseline. I am just on my couch on my TV that I got for $300 at Walmart, like, playing this game.
I think that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looks fine for the most part. I'm playing on performance mode. I do think that John had a point when he said that, yeah, like, there are material improvements if you're playing in quality and you get 4K 60 with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It is definitely an appealing prospect, but there are also plenty of people who were jokingly sharing screenshots and being like, I can't tell these apart. They look exactly the same. And I understand, like, that to the average person, that 4K 60 doesn't look a whole heck of a lot different from 1080p for 60
not on the internet.
And more to the point, like, yeah, number one, there's compression on YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that, so it's never going to look as good over the internet as it might in your home. But also, like, how many people here have even, like, upgraded TVs within the last few years? Because I didn't get a 4K TV until like at this point, maybe a year ago, like half a year ago. I was on 1080p for a long time, and I've always like even my monitors that I use for my computers, I have like pretty good PCs, but I keep it to like 1080 or 1440 because I'm like, I really don't see the benefit of 4K, and I would rather just pump all of that into frames and stuff. And so, like, I think the big whiff on this one... I care more
about 120 FPS. Having a super high refresh rate monitor makes a huge difference for me on PC. But, yeah, so I have a 4K TV that I bought 8 years ago. It does not support 120 FPS, but it looks great. And in some ways, TVs are, much like the rest of technology, kind of diminishing returns. And it's very expensive to upgrade your TV and a real hassle. So I'm not going to do it.
I also upgraded to a 4K TV and it broke. It just stopped working. And apparently that was something that happens a lot. So it's not great. Things don't last.
The other whiff here that I kind of wish, like, even Xbox got right. We just kind of talked about how, like, Xbox has been the one, Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes this whole generation. I do like, I agree with that, but also, like, the one thing that Xbox got right from the jump with the Series X was go play our back catalog. It can soup up all those old games. So games like, you know, Final Fantasy 13, I think, was the one that got the most attention because it looks gorgeous and runs gorgeously on the Series X. A lot of people were saying, like, if you want to play a really good version of Final Fantasy 13, pick up a Series X. It runs it beautifully. And, like, there are a lot of old games in that catalog, in that library, plus Game Pass, that now you had access to all these old games that were running super well. And, like, could you feasibly do that on a PC? Absolutely. But, like, for a lot of people who want that ease of use, the console idea of plug and play, it was a really nice thing to have. And Sony has been waffling back and forth on this idea of, do we want you to play our old games or not? Because they will occasionally put out old games on their services. They'll kind of do it in their tiered systems. So they have, like, the tiered subscription service that everybody has now because life is hell. But like Mr. Mosquito like just came out on the PlayStation service, and that's really cool. I honestly think the PS5 Pro might have been a better sell if they weren't just advertising that you can play PS5 games / like late stage PS4 games with enhancements, but also the idea that like, oh, we got a bunch of developers to go back and all of our back compat stuff is going to run even smoother now. It's going to run at like super high frame rate. It's going to like load really fast. You're going to be able to do all this stuff. Instead, the focus was just on like, here's 8 games. Here's 8 games that you know Sony for. Here's Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon, Spider-Man, and Final Fantasy and stuff like that. And they're going to run a little bit better. And I think that's like a harder sell because most people who are that devoted to Sony at this point have played those games already. And like, do they want to pay $700 to play the same game again at a slightly better visual quality? I don't know. If you are that person, congratulations. Like, don't get mad at me. You're winning life. You get to frivolously spend like $700. Like, that's great. I love that for you.
I actually did see some people in John's thread say, "Oh, thankfully now I can finally play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because it looked so terrible I couldn't stand it before." But you also have a lot of people who are like, "I'm waiting for it to come on the PC," because I feel like that's inevitable at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I have a lot of disposable income, frankly, PC gaming it's the way for me. Though I think a really good gaming PC is going to cost you at least double.
Yeah, it still costs a lot.
Yeah, it's not cheap. I'm going to say for myself, so I would describe myself as someone who generally tries to buy the best possible equipment when I'm playing games. I have a Steam Deck OLED. I have previously invested in mid-gen refreshes. I have a super high refresh rate monitor that can play in like 4K and everything. I don't plan to buy a PS5 Pro for a couple reasons. One, $700 is not cheap. It's a big hole in my wallet, even with a trade-in for my regular PS5. Two, it's a pain in the ass to upgrade from a PS5 to PS5 Pro. And the PS5 Pro is clearly aimed at people who are already owned a PS5 and are going to buy a new one to get the better version. This is for the hardcore, like 10% of people are going to buy this thing, maybe. And the people who haven't bought a PS5 yet probably aren't going to buy the premium version of this particular equipment. But I think the deal breaker for me is just the lack of a disk drive. Yeah. I'm not going to buy a disk drive separately. I'm not going to go through the trouble of installing it, but I want a disk drive because, speaking for myself personally, I have a bunch of PS4 games on disc that are still sitting on my shelf that I still want to play. And also, my PS5 is my Blu-ray player, if you can believe it.
Yes. No,
yeah.
Same boat.
Ours is the Xbox.
Nadia, Eric, do you plan on getting a PS5 Pro?
No,
absolutely not.
I just bought this PC that's sitting behind me, and like the Switch 2 is theoretically on the horizon. And like you said, if I was going to start just frivolously spending money, I said it right the first time. If I was going to start doing that, I'd buy a third PC. I don't know. I'd do something. Like I don't see any sort of appealing like sales pitch on this yet, because at this point most of those games are on PC anyways. Most of those games are coming to PC if they're not already on PC, and also if I own a PC it plays a bunch of old stuff too. So I don't know. I haven't seen like the use case for a PS5 Pro for me personally yet.
I almost never buy mid-system upgrades except like Nintendo, the DS and whatnot, and even in that case I was sent a lot of those DS systems because I was working for About.com at the time. But I don't even play my PlayStation 5 enough to justify that kind of increase, because like I use it mostly for Final Fantasy 14, which runs just fine on it. So I'm out. No real reason to get it. It would be nice to see non-blurry cloud, I guess, but I honestly don't care that much.
Your point is well taken, Eric, that there's a bunch of stuff coming out soon, like the Switch 2. And it drives home to me that high-end gaming is a really expensive hobby at this
Yes.
point. Thousands of dollars to be able to get the equipment and the games that you need and all of the subscriptions. And I don't think about it that much because like I can pay for it, but a lot of people can't.
I can't.
For a lot of people, that's a huge investment in it. And when you take a step back for a moment and you think about how much money you're actually spending on all of this stuff, you go, holy moly, how is this possibly sustainable in this economy?
That's
4K in this
700 Arizona iced teas you could buy now. But
I know.
That's also like a very good point, Kat, that like if you are spending money, the thing I've heard repeatedly from friends of mine, and granted this is like anecdotally, but like they want something that's going to be bang for their buck and also like going to last them a decent amount of time. And so in that respect, if you're already getting up into the $700 price range, why not push a little bit further, spend $1,000, $1,200, get yourself a really nice gaming PC, and then you're set for the next 5-6 years, and you have a wider library. Like if you're trying to be cost effective, I used to tell people when they were getting into games media, I was like, don't worry about what consoles you have, get a PC. Number one, it's easier to get PC code, fun fact. Number two, it's like it will make you able to cover the widest variety, and it's also going to like last longer. It is going to be like pretty fluid in what it can cover for a long amount of time. Like this PC I built is really strong, and I did that because of the streaming realities of what we need to do here on Axe of the Blood God. But like even graphics cards from 7 years ago can still play stuff today at a pretty decent frame rate and visual fidelity. So yeah, it is about how far does your dollar go, and that's why I keep emphasizing like the PS5 Pro might be nice for some people, but it's nice as a luxury. It's not necessarily a necessity. I mean, none of this is a necessity, but like it's not something that like, oh, I need this to play my game. You know,
You're looking at a very
it's necessary,
niche.
Eric.
it's so necessary.
So
it's got
a
racing
1
stripes.
terabyte, a 1 terabyte Steam Deck OLED is $650, which also has some sticker shock. But I would rather own the Steam Deck OLED, despite being less powerful, because it's portable, very flexible device, plays just a huge number of games, and a lot of games look really good at it. Even when you're playing in 1200 by 800 at 40 frames per second, games like Persona 3 Reload look fantastic.
Oh, so good
on that
Yeah,
screen.
I would absolutely. Like, I don't really have the money for a Steam Deck OLED, but if I did, that would be a much smarter investment for many of the reasons that Eric said versus the PlayStation 5 Pro. And you're right, Eric. It's a good piece of advice to give. Like, I wouldn't say anyone should work in media right now, but having a good, strong PC, I learned.
If you're interested in keeping up with like modern games, let's say, if you want to play modern games, let's put it that way. Because I also think something worth pointing out is that like PS5 games cost $70, but PC games regularly go on sale, and it's pretty easy to get a hold of like a wide variety of games for good prices on, you know, platforms like Steam and stuff like that. So again, like that's another cost saving measure down the line, where instead of, you know, paying $70 for the latest game that isn't going on sale anytime soon, you're looking at Steam sales and stuff like that. I feel like the PlayStation Store does not have nearly as many sales as PC storefronts do.
Just being able to mod mod games on my Steam Deck OLED and play the very wide variety of games that I can put on it versus a very closed platform like the PS5 Pro. And I'll be honest, y'all, I haven't been playing my PS5 that much this year. The main game that I've been playing on it has been Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I would say that in order of priority, my consoles at this point are kind of Steam Deck, PC, Switch, PS5, in that order. My poor Xbox is crying over here in the corner. But,
I would say no matter what you do, you should always get whatever the hell Nintendo's doing, because they always have something zany that's completely different and has their properties.
So Astrobot. Astrobot is a funny game because it's not exactly a high-tech system seller that would be a perfect showcase for the PS5 Pro, and yet
Right.
it is the right move for PlayStation because it is a family-friendly, family-oriented game that is going to bring in an audience that is weirdly underserved by core game developers. They're so focused on serving the 20-something single dudes who play video games or perceived to play video games that they're forgetting that there are a lot of 40-somethings who have young children who want to play games with them, and Nintendo has owned that space for 20 years.
Yeah. When I was, I did a lot of retro cons in August, and they're really fun because, yes, you see people our age bringing their kids along, and the kids are extremely interested in games new and old, and something like Astrobot is absolutely perfect, and because they love stuff like Mario. Mario is like the perfect mascot, that perfect age, and Astrobot kind of touches that same niche, as I understand.
I was going to save some of this for the tavern, but like I've been playing Astrobot here and there because I just couldn't, like I was going to not play it because I have too many other things I'm playing, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll like play a level of Astrobot just to like give myself a treat. What a freaking treat that game is. It's like first off, not to undercut you, but I do think it undersells it. Like, this game is gorgeous. It looks fantastic. It looks so good on the PS5. Like, it is honestly surprising in ways that it just has like amazing moments of the way different levels work, the way it handles like liquids, volumetric stuff, like lighting. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there that's just very like high tech that surprised me and like looks really, really good compared to most other stuff I've played on my PS5 lately. And then it's just a fun game that makes use of the system, which is something I think that like Sony has also struggled with. Haptics have not been the like revolution that I think they were maybe hoping for with the DualSense. Every game has to have like some sort of DualSense thing, but I found most of them to be pretty annoying for the most part. Like I
turn them off for the most part.
I never liked the half press stuff. So when I was playing, what was the Deathloop, had some of the half press stuff and all that, or it would like jam your trigger when your gun jammed and all that. I never liked it.
Or playing FIFA and you're trying to shoot and it feels like your trigger is like gummed up or something, like there's sand in it. I hate that feeling.
Yeah, and like what Astrobot does is it says like, okay, what if like we just did other stuff with that? What if we had cool rumble tech? What if we had interesting stuff with how the triggers feel like tactily and like not sort of like, oh, we're going to put resistance on this because you're doing like you're pushing a big door or whatever. It's like, now what if it really did kind of feel like you were pulling back on a slingshot or something? So you do have some tension that you're pushing through, but it feels really good. And it's got kind of that shaking tension as you pull it back and then you launch and it feels great. Like Astrobot is just a delight, and it makes you sit there and like I know I said way back when the PS5 launched that Playroom was like secretly the system seller of that. I think I wrote a thing for USG about it at the time that was like Playroom is like the best PS5 exclusive. Astrobot is now the best PS5 exclusive. Like, I'm sorry, I love Rebirth and it's a great game, but it's going to be a great game no matter where you play it. Like, I think like Astrobot is the PS5 game, and it really shows what this console can do that others aren't doing. And yeah, it's Astrobot. I can't wait for GOTYs and stuff. I really want to see it get its flowers.
Two reasons I haven't really gotten to Astrobot yet. Number one, it just came out at a time when I'm really not in the mood for PlayStation nostalgia. Because it came out like right as Concord was ditched and the whole, the studio was shut down or whatever. But the studio wasn't shut down, was it?
No, it's still around.
Okay, it's still around, but still, just like...
She's talking about the Concord studio.
Oh, yeah, no.
Firewalk Studios.
Firewalk, thank you. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, like, Sony has all these, like, yay, look at all these characters in this game. Look at all the cameos. And it's like, oh, yeah, this is the first time I've seen Sony treat a property that has potential that that they want to stick around with, like an actual mascot.
Sony nostalgia is not really a thing for me because I've never really vibed with a lot of its games. Like, I don't care about Resistance, Fall of Man, or Knack. Sorry.
Oh, but
none of the PS3 ones. I'm like, whatever.
I'm gonna save it for the tavern, and we'll like spoiler tag it. But there is like a moment in Astrobot that made me realize.
Gone?
Huh? No. There's a moment in Astrobot that made me realize I do have Sony nostalgia, and if anything, it's kind of damning for Sony the way I felt that nostalgia.
There
but
can be Sony nostalgia. That's the problem, but they won't let it happen. They tried for like 2 seconds with that Smash ripoff,
Warhawk,
and then they just kind of
Warhawk,
and then they just gave up. And it's like, oh, cool, you have the Sony like man from the spiky guy. Remember him from the ads?
Do you want to just talk about it here? Spoilers
no,
for like.
No, save it.
Okay, save it. Save it.
I'll say that the second thing that I won't. The second reason I won't play it is because I'm worried that it's going to screw up my PlayStation with its haptics. After I played Astrobot like for the first time, that's when I noticed everything was kind of screwy with my controller. And it's like, I don't know.
You can turn them off if you want on a system
But
level.
if they're part of the game, it's like, and if they actually did something good with it, I'm glad they did. But Sony's engineering sucked. Apparently, I think I've replaced more PS5 controllers than I have Switch controllers.
Oh yeah, I've
it's really
replaced
bad.
multiple DualSenses at this point.
So when I feel something rattle in my controller now, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, one of the springs went out on one of my DualSenses, and the other one just like doesn't hold a charge anymore. Like it just dies the second I take it off the charger.
Yeah, and they're expensive, as you said. They just raised the price again. That's the price of a game or better. And controllers ain't what they used to be.
Returning to my original point, I think one of the reasons the Switch has proven so appealing is that it's at a good price point. It's good enough in terms of power.
Yeah.
It hit right at a time where power started to provide diminishing returns. We're now paying just an outrageous premium for little bits of upgrades, and the PS5 Pro is emblematic of that. And there's so many wonderful family-friendly games that can be played by all ages on the Nintendo Switch, and people are buying 2 or 3 of the things. It's no wonder that it's like one of the best-selling consoles of all time. And when the Switch 2 comes out, I just hope that they kind of stick to that and don't like people are already anticipating that the price is going to be somewhat higher than the regular Nintendo Switch, because there's a lot of things happening with pipelines and components aren't getting any cheaper, so it's difficult to lower prices, and that's why we're seeing consoles getting more expensive. But a long time ago, Nintendo made a very calculated decision not to get into the technological arms race, and that was one of the most consequential and frankly the correct decision that Nintendo ever made.
Well, if you look at, it's funny that we're all having this race towards graphical fidelity, because if you look at the games kids love these days, the characters are made out of 5 polygons.
Oh god, like, Roblox and stuff like
they
that.
They don't care.
Oh god, yeah. Minecraft.
But I will say the one big technological thing for me that I hope Nintendo latches onto with the Switch 2, and that I actually really like about the current systems and all that, is not the graphics card or RAM or anything like that. It's the NVMe drive. It's like really fast loading SSD drives that can just move data so quick. I was at a media event recently, and one of the techs there was helping me because my like normal mechanical hard drive was not working like it should. He pulled out an NVMe drive that he had in an enclosure that was basically just the same as, you know, your standard like portable hard drive, but it was running one of those little stick drives in there. And that thing was moving gigs at light speed. And I was just sitting there like, so where'd you buy this? Like, where'd you get this? Like, this is sick. I love this. And he was like, dude, it's super easy. It's like, go pick this up. But it just reminded me that like the one that I've got in my gaming PC, the one that's in like most like high-end consoles and stuff like that, that does make a difference. That read-write speed opens up so much. And like, can you imagine what Nintendo could do with like really fast read-write speed? Like, I don't need Tears of the Kingdom to look that much nicer, but imagine if it just had crazy read write, like, oh, now we're talking like crazy like load times, like basically cutting down on everything. I do actually like that about modern systems, modern games, is that like we're cutting down a lot of the like set your controller down and walk away moments.
It's come to the point where on my PC I don't install games on anything but my SSD because the difference is so noticeable.
It's crazy.
In terms of performance, load times, everything else. Unfortunately, my SSD is a lot smaller than my regular hard drive, so I have to Tetris things quite a bit. Exactly. So how do we feel about mid-gen refreshes as a concept? Good idea, bad idea, neutral idea? Just like, here's a more powerful console, go to it, go buy it.
really depends for me. Like, one of my favorite consoles was the new 3DS. Like, I feel like that was such a neat little thing. It was very powerful, even though Xenoblade sucked on it. Like, it looked terrible. The fact that it existed was so incredible to me. But yeah, if Nintendo had done a Switch refresh, I would have bought it. But PlayStation, like the console refreshes, the really beefy, expensive refreshes, I rarely go for those. But I go for handheld refreshes most of the time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like I think of like the good console refreshes that exist, and most of them are in like the handheld realm. I was actually looking like Jeff Grubb had put out this like tier list of refreshes over the last like many generations, and like the GBA SP is like the crowning achievement, right? Like that's like the moment where it's like, oh, they just yes, good job,
they finally nailed it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, DS Lite much better than SP. Yes, the SP had a backlight.
Cat, that's crazy.
But it was missing. It was missing a freaking headphone jack.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
It's a ridiculous thing.
Everyone else gets to bask in the glory of FE7 soundtrack. They get to hear the Advance Wars chip tunes. It's all good. That's making life
going
good.
From the DS, the launch DS with this chunky nightmare to the DS Lite with its much brighter backlit screen and way better form factor. That was the true realization.
I feel like, yeah, that's when the DS really took off. There was one year I was at Otakon, and I noticed, like, even though no one really had a DS Fat, everybody had a DS Lite all of a sudden.
Well, and
they all figured out how R4 cards worked.
I hopped on late, so I admittedly love my 3DS XL because it's like I got the Zelda one, and it's like I look Rick and Morty, talk about it however you want amongst yourselves. I certainly do, but like that's that one scene in that one episode where Rick runs in, he's like, Morty, they've got the Zelda 3DS XLs on sale for Black Friday. We gotta go. We gotta buy like 10 of them.
Come on, Morty. Come on, Morty. Let's go, Morty.
That was literally me and my brother that day. We were like, we gotta go. We gotta go to Target. They're selling the Zelda 3DS. And, I love that system.
Funny thing is that the Vita mid-gen refresh actually got worse.
Oh yeah,
than the launch version.
How?
Because they got
cheaper. They took the OLED out.
They went with a cheaper screen.
No, really? That's bullshit.
So
that was such a great system.
With the Vita.
They deserve so much better. Poor Vita.
Yeah, but like handheld, I think broadly is where we see a lot of really good upgrades because they actually take a look at the form factor. They do alterations to the way it handles. Even the Switch OLED. I love my Switch OLED. Oh, look at that. That's gorgeous.
I love the new 2DS XL.
Nintendo, hear my cry. If you make the next Switch a clamshell design with 2 screens, I will give you my life. I will give you my soul. But like,
did you see that Huawei made a trifold phone? It looks so cool.
Phone.
Yeah, man. So you open it up and it can be kind of a phone, and then you can pull it out and it becomes a tablet. It's crazy.
Oh, clamshell should never have done.
Here's the thing. I love clamshell or like the LG Rumor, like the slide out. I think the PSP Go had that as well, where you could like slide it out.
It's kind of
neat. I don't like folding screens. I feel like they are built to fail. They are built to be trash after like a few years.
That's very possible.
I'm waiting for all these
there's built-in
like,
obsolescence with all of this stuff, right?
Right, and that's the other problem. But I do feel like, again, like I had 2 Switches. I ended up, after I bought my OLED, I had 2 Switches for a while and then gave my other one to some family because I was just like, I don't need 2 Switches. There's no need for me to have 2 Switches. But I love my OLED, and it's like barely an upgrade at all. It's just a new screen, and like the bevel is like slightly smaller, but it's such a good upgrade. It is honestly great. Even the dock it comes with is a great upgrade because it has stuff built into it. And that's, I think handhelds understand how to do the mid-gen system refresh. I've never liked the console ones. I just never see the point. They're always
PS4
such
Pro is
small.
a huge improvement on the launch PS4.
Yeah, I never bought it.
That, especially toward the end of the generation, the PS4 Pro became essential because games ran so badly on the stock PS4.
I loved booting up late-gen PS4 games and watching my PS4 rise like a Harrier jet from all the fan exhaust.
When I played Final Fantasy XIV on the PS4, that was what it did the whole time, just jet engine noises.
And credit to Xbox, the Xbox One X was a massive upgrade on the launch Xbox.
Yeah, like
I
never
have
played the
one. It's in a
Xbox One X,
box.
but
I
I've
don't know
heard
why
good
I
things.
have it.
I will be interested to see if Microsoft goes for any sort of like mid-gen refresh encounter. I don't think they will. I think like the Series S especially has just been a thing that they have had to deal with for a while, and so the idea that they might come out with a new system and then have to say like, well, these games can only run on the mid-gen, the Xbox XX, and then like the Xbox X, but not on the Xbox Series S. Like, they don't want to get into the new Nintendo 3DS stuff, right? Where like Hyrule Warriors only played on the new Nintendo and stuff like that. So
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think it's much more likely, personally, that Microsoft holds off for a new console gen, or even looking into something like a handheld or something like that, which I think would be the smart play. But I guess I'm just surprised that Sony is doing this, and I'm interested to see reports, people come back with it, talk about it. But I really just want to see Sony come out with a game and say, like, this is the reason why you should buy a PS5 Pro. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for the thing that's like, this is the game that's going to look better, play better, be everything better, and be something that is new on the PS5 Pro, and not something that's just like, oh, you don't have to pick the option in the menu anymore.
Same.
Well, we'll see how people react to the PS5 Pro when it releases on November 7th. Interestingly, analysts are kind of expecting it to do about as well as the PS4 Pro when it ultimately comes out. And for a decent number of people who are willing to shell out the money, it might be a meaningful upgrade. Okay. That's it for our PS5 Pro discussion. It's time now for a series of random encounters. Amazon's Fallout has won 2 Creative Arts Emmys, and with more likely on the way as of the recording of this episode, the Emmys are on Sunday. When this episode releases, it will have already probably won a bunch, though Shogun is really destroying everything in terms of shows. By the way, watch Shogun. It's an amazing show.
So good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Great memes. The Gaijin thinks that you should watch Shogun. Thank you.
That's good.
Destiny 2 will now be getting 2 medium expansions per year in a shift in its release schedule. Xbox has laid off another 650 workers. And meanwhile, a former Sony president said that game industry layoffs are not the result of corporate greed, and those affected should drive an Uber.
Why did he drive an Uber? Maybe off a cliff in Minecraft.
I was actually thinking about, when we were talking about mid-gen refreshes, a bunch of people were recalling the time that Sony announced $600 for the PS3.
$509 US. The memes all came back. It was 2006 again, baby. You're the man now, dog. Lived again.
And what was the quote? People should want to have 2 jobs to get one.
People had 2 jobs to get a PS3. Yeah. I got right on that, dude.
Arrogant Sony's back, baby.
$509
or
US
did they?
dollars.
Oh, what's
Giant
the
enemy
meme?
crab.
Then never left. Xbox's new Game Pass standard tier is pulling access to Starfield and Diablo, among other games. Sounds like a great deal. Speaking of the high price of being able to engage in high-end gaming. The new Elden Ring patch is making Shadows of the Erdtree's final boss easier. Maybe I'll even be able to beat him someday, though I don't think so, because I'm bad at video games. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I'll admit it.
You are not bad at video games. Don't give me that crap. You can you can just destroy Ninja Gaiden.
It's true. I can destroy. If Ninja Gaiden were an esport, I would at least do okay in the tournaments.
If it was an esport, I would do okay. There you go. That's a rallying cry right there.
Yuji Horí's follow-up to his seminal adventure game Portopia, the Hokkaido serial murder case, the Okatsuki's disappearance. Oh god, what a mouthful. Has been released in English for the very first time. Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. I love that they did that. I haven't played it yet, but I love that they're releasing all these, for lack of a better term, kind of detective adventure games, what was the one that just came out for Famicom Detective Club?
We'll talk about Emio in a second.
Yeah.
I love that this one got the good treatment as a game, and not the treatment that Portopia got, which was we turned it into an AI chatbot that you have to talk
Yeah.
to. So it's nice to see this game get like a reverent treatment and not an irreverent treatment, you know. So
And finally, rest in peace to James Earl Jones, voice of Darth Vader, Mufasa, and so many others. Go listen to his speech in Field of Dreams and see if you don't get a tear in your eye. It's a reminder of what was and what can be good again, to
Yeah, he was
paraphrase him.
definitely a voice of our generation, especially those of us who grew up with the Disney Renaissance. Like, he was just so great as Mufasa.
Yes,
R.I.P.
he was. R.I.P. All right, we're rolling into the tavern, talking about what we've been playing, what we've been watching, our lives, the world,
you've
everything.
been watching my life.
I
Oh
guess.
no, don't do that. The Truman Show. I saw it in theaters.
Eric, and we were kind of putting a pin on the Astrobot discussion. So let's talk more about Astrobot.
Yeah, so like Astrobot, if you've played Playroom, I think you have some expectation of what to expect here, and a lot of it's going to feel very similar to that at the beginning. It is a character action platformer starring the lovable little Astrobot who, in my opinion, and I've had words with people who disagree with me because I think they're wrong, I think Astrobot's a Sony mascot now. I think this is like what they have needed for a long time, which is like a cute little character that they can be like, this is the Sony mascot.
Face.
Like, finally, it's not like, look, I love Jack and Daxter, but Jack was never going to be the face of Sony. Like,
What about Sackboy?
Sackboy, look, Sackboy
dead.
tried, but I think Astrobot clicks. And like
Yeah.
there's something so malleable yet recognizable about that character. I think it really just works. You can dress him up. That's the important part. You have to be able to dress your mascot up as other characters, and so like having him dress up as all the different like Sony properties really works. And we were joking earlier about some of the like Sony properties that were obviously like, oh yeah, I'm so excited about Deacon from Days Gone in here. But mild spoilers for the first area. I won't even get too in depth, but like they take a classic Sony game that has not had a new entry in years and basically just recreate it in Astrobot, and you just play it, and you're just playing it. And I felt like I was transported back in time to a classic series that I loved when I was younger. That was like basically my introduction to the PlayStation 1. And I was just in like a state of joy that I have not felt from gaming in some time, like probably not since, I don't know, playing Breath of the Wild for the first time. And I don't want to say this is like some revolutionary thing, but it did remind me of like, oh, this is that like nostalgia. That is that like wondrous, like, oh, I remember like how much fun this was. But then it just reminded me like, oh, like Sony, why haven't you made another one of these? Why are these not easy to access right now even? And so that's kind of the weird part about Astrobot is it feels like a tour of Sony's lineage for sure, and like seeing all the different things that Sony has done. And there's certainly some modern stuff that I think they can hang their hat on, especially when it comes to God of War. But there's other parts where you're just like, Sony doesn't make games like this anymore. And that's kind of weird to me. Like, Team Asobi is coming in here and basically saying like, this is how this like classic Sony game would work super well in the modern day. And let them make it, in my opinion, because they clearly have the chops to do so. I love this game. I think it's such a fun character action platformer that's got like levels that know they like introduce a mechanic, they kind of iterate on it over time and gradually challenge you a little bit more, but you're always kind of like figuring things out without it ever being like told to you outright. So like, I've got a tool that lets me make platforms. They're not going to like outright tell you how it exactly works to beat every puzzle. They're just going to like put things and arrange things in the area that's like, oh, you can figure it out naturally. Like it feels natural to get through every area. And then the ideas they have, like the mouse level, I think is one that everybody keeps talking about and raving about, and they should. It's absolutely amazing. I think it's incredible. So it's really like exciting to see this sort of thing come out of Sony, because like y'all listening to the podcast know I get tired of the like third person prestige action game with the like pseudo RPG skill tree over the shoulder. Like this is This is
I
like
bounced pretty
it's a
quick, to be honest.
vision of gaming I have missed for a long time. I'm not even like the hugest platformer fan, and I'm just finding nothing but joy in this game. So like seriously, like if you own a PS5, I do genuinely think you need to buy Astrobot. You need to play Astrobot. It is like the reason to boot up your PS5 at this point.
Perhaps
I
I will.
absolutely adore it.
So, Axe of the Blood God is an independent RPG podcast, and we ostensibly exist to talk about role-playing games. But I think more to the point, we're here to talk about games that have substance and a soul. And I'm not saying that big AAA third-person action games like The Last of Us and God of War don't have some substance and some soul. It's just they have become fairly formulaic in many respects. As Suda51 was saying this week, that people pay too much attention to Metacritic. I agree with you, Goichi Suda. And he was saying that it makes games too formulaic. Also agree. And I think here on Axe of the Blood God, we really like games that kind of move away from that formula and offer a lot to dig into, even if they're not necessarily RPGs. I will be picking up Astrobot and playing it because it does seem like a very strong Game of the Year shout.
Yeah, I will get it, but just not right now. Once I steel myself for my controller to die.
I will say on the RPG front, it feels a little bit weird that I'll just say that like apparently there's no Final Fantasy characters in this one, and I think that's a bit weird. I would have expected a Cloud
They've got
or something.
freaking Simon Belmont, or they've got Richter Belmont and Alucard in Astrobot, but they don't have any Final Fantasy characters. Final Fantasy VII was the de facto mascot of the PlayStation 1.
That's so weird.
And this is, I'm sure they asked, and I'm sure this is Square Enix self-owning themselves into oblivion because they're so precious with their IP.
They really
Again.
are. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to know the story about
And yet
like
you'll
what
find
the
them on,
ask
like,
was.
You think like, oh, Square Enix is very precious with their characters, and they usually are, but then you find like Tifa condoms or something. Not literally, I'm just saying like sometimes you just find their products, their characters on weird shit. And it's like, why not put them in Astrobot? You're right, that was like a very defining
Think about
game.
Smash Brothers. Think about Smash Brothers, where they only had 2 songs at the jump when they put in.
I can't believe
Cloud.
they did that. I was just like,
Yeah.
you gunnifs.
I picture, because Astrobot has this thing where like you get to certain levels and they are just like recreations of other games within the world of Astrobot, and they're so clever and they're so fun and they really do like capture the spirit of those games. I would have like honestly just been giddy and giggling and kicking my feet and loving life if they had had a level in this game where you go to a world and it is like FF7 and you're like picking up other Astrobots to add them to your party and you're getting into little turn-based battles with your little Astrobots and stuff. I was just giddy. I would have been giggling. It would like a school child.
Capture any of the PS1's RPG lineage? Because is there a Legend of Dragoon in this thing?
I don't
Is
think
there a
I've seen
Wild Arms?
Dragoon. I don't think I've seen Wild Arms.
You missed a trick here, Team Asobi.
I agree. Ooh.
Hey, mark it down for Astrobot too. And Asobi, if you're somehow listening to this, that one's for free. But speaking of lineages from the past that are now somehow back, Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club is delightful. It is honestly just amazing that it exists in the first place. It is a new Famicom Detective Club game, a series that most people listening to the show probably didn't even know existed. And then it got revived, remade, and I guess Nintendo just said, well, you built the car, why don't you drive it a little bit further and make a new one. It is I do think it fits into the RPG thing because it's so much of that like look, think, interact. Like, yeah, you're not rolling die and you don't have stats, but like it is very much you are playing the role of a detective talking to people. And I know that's like a stretch of the term and all that, but hey, what do we do if not stretch the term of RPG?
That's what we're here for.
And it's dark. It's really dark. It feels like playing True Detective. Like it is creepy at times, moody at times. It's set in like, I want to say the 90s or so. So you have the cell phone, but it's like a brick of a cell phone. Like it's only
Zach
good
Morris
for calling.
cell phone.
Yeah, and so there's this section where you have to wait for the bus, and you're just standing there, and you're like, I forgot that life was like this. You don't have a smartphone to pull up and play games on or anything. You're literally just examining everything around you, thinking, reflecting back on things, being like, man, when is this bus going to show up? Is it going to show up? And it's
I
great.
had my DS Lite.
Smoking.
Yeah.
But
Reading a book.
I
What a
genuinely
concept.
think it's because of those mechanics, it's really fun. I love the idea of poring over pages and thinking about like, okay, like how does this link up with that? Where's the discrepancy? Like it kind of moves at a good pace. It's got that sort of creepy, moody atmosphere, but it's also dark. Like it is. I cannot believe this is a Nintendo game at times because it gets into some really seriously touchy subject matter and stuff like that. Like stuff I would expect on like an HBO show and stuff like that, but this is a Nintendo game and you are dealing with some real, not just murder, but like just a lot of stuff that I'm surprised they're getting into this subject material.
I love
but
when Nintendo gets dark.
They
do it
handle
so
it
well.
super well.
It's so good.
It's written so well, and the characters are so well realized, and I'm just amazed that this thing exists. And it really feels like somebody said, "What if we never left this in the dust? What if we never like put?" Because I do think that there is a substantial difference here between, say, Emio the Smiling Man and a Danganronpa or a Phoenix Wright or other stuff. Maybe Phoenix Wright is like the closest analog, but even then, it's like slightly different, like slightly.
Would you say 999 maybe? Is it like that?
No, because that's 999's very like puzzle room. You're solving stuff. You're looking for things. Find a way out and all that. But I'm trying to think. It is like classic adventure game. Like that's the idea of like these again like Portopia, the Yuji Horii early stuff, which eventually did play a role in role playing games moving forward and did have an impact on the genre. Like if you want to see that, if you want to see those building blocks, but in a modern way with a modern story with a lot of interesting new additions to it, like Emio's got that. It's got that in spades. Like I'm having the time of my life with this game right now. I
might be sold.
It's my before bed game. And again, I think the Switch, the OLED is like the perfect place for it. Cause I get in bed, I cozy up and I'm just with my little Switch and I'm like, yeah, let's solve murder.
Life's good. Let's solve murder before bed. Why are my dreams so fucked up?
Yeah.
I would love to play this game, actually.
Me too.
Does it have a serial killer? Because I'm imagining a serial killer coming in. And
it is literally about.
just like, look at these people just enjoying life. No smartphones to be seen anywhere.
So the setup, the brief setup is that you are playing this kind of like recurring character in the detective club agency, whatever, and you have been signed on to help the police with this killing, and they find somebody strangled to death with a paper bag over their head that has a smiling face on it, and they realize, oh shit, this is a cold case because 18 years ago there were 3 murders that also had this happen, but we never released the details about the smiling face mask to the public. We never let that out. And so like you're basically like, are we dealing with a copycat who has knowledge of this? Are we dealing with like somebody, is he killing again? Like I actually find it's very interesting in the way it's not just like, oh, you're hunting a killer, but you're like trying to solve an actual case. You're trying to figure out like the very minute details of like what happened 18 years ago, why does it link to now, what is happening. That's why I make the True Detective comparison, because I think that was a great series for like thinking about how murders are actually solved, and also like how they affect the community around them, which I think this game also does pretty well. And I find it fascinating. It feels like a true crime adventure game in all the best ways.
I've been trying to deny my white chick heritage and stay away from true crime, but I find that true crime is absolutely fascinating. And my mother had bookshelves full of it.
My white chick heritage.
For some reason, we all love true crime.
I'm trying to defy my caucasity.
I can't deny who I am. I'm like, oh shit, this sounds like, Law and Order, SVU, which is not, of course, true crime, but this is the kind of shit I've been eating up lately.
Oh my god! Yeah,
partner.
no.
Ooh, murder.
Murder.
My partner Emily will fall asleep listening to true crime YouTube videos, and so and then they found her dismembered body in a trunk in the woods. She's like, this is the great stuff to get to sleep.
Smash
was
got
actually-
to like honk. She like falling asleep. Well,
I was actually reading about how serial killers were such a thing, like and they're not anymore because it's kind of the same reason why like prank calls faded away. You can track people so much easier now, whereas back in the '90s, people could disappear very easily compared to now.
I thought you were going to say
was
it's
definitely-
why prank calls went away because everybody does them now. It's
Well,
like
my
not even-
idiot brother actually made a prank call once when during the age of caller ID, and the cops end up at my mom's house, and it's just like, you freaking idiot! Do you not know what age it is? You think it's 1980? Dimwit.
It is not 1980. It's 1997, and Final Fantasy VII has just come out, and
Yeah.
the PS1 RPG heyday that's totally not reflected in Astrobot is in full swing. Anyway, Nadia, what have you been playing?
I finished SteamWorld Heist 2. It was fantastic.
Hey, good job.
Had a great time. Absolutely recommend it. As good as the first one, if not better. I said on Twitter, like, yeah, I finished it, and the SteamWorld games people gave me a thumbs up because they're super nice. They're the whole team. Like when I reviewed the original SteamWorld, like they actually like sent me a private email like saying thank you so much for reviewing it. And it's like, oh damn, you guys made a good game. You don't have to thank me. But yeah, I finished that. It was great. I'm still playing Visions of Mana. The more I play it, the more I like it. But I can also understand Eric saying this game fights against itself so very much. And what gets me is like, that's mana. It feels so familiar to me, like all the
Grizzly.
jank. And it's like, why did you copy the jank?
The jank.
This is so strange to me, and yet I love it. Like, I got to a pretty heavy story point. I'm like, oh, that's actually quite heavy, even for mana. And yeah, I feel like it's so weird that the character's dialogue sometimes is like really nice and like really meaningful, and sometimes it's like go dog go. It's a great game though. It's definitely going to be my 7 out of 10 for the year. So it really does capture those vibes that I remember as a kid. Like I know that nothing will ever be as special as playing Secret of Mana for the first time. You just can't replicate that. But I appreciate how much the history of Mana has been reflected in Visions of Mana. Like every boss, every character, not every single boss, every single character, but these are all very familiar places and characters and fields to me, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the creativity behind the races, by the way. Like squirrels, squirrel people. You don't see that.
Squirrel people is definitely a new. I did not
Squirrel
expect that
people.
one. I was like, we got cat girls, cat boys. That makes sense. You got like your typical animals that usually get adapted into anthropomorphic humans, but squirrels was a curveball.
And we're talking
Doesn't
about like,
love squirrels.
but these squirrels are like royalist capitalist assholes too. Like they're mean.
The
Not all
squirrels
of them,
invented
just like
monarchy.
I do
did.
not like capitalist boss squirrels. I do like squirrels though.
squirrels. Squirrels are cool. We have like a lot of black squirrels around here. They're neat. People don't. Do you have black squirrels in Minnesota? You must have.
Probably. I don't remember. We do feed the squirrels around here, and when during the fall, when they're all gathering up all of their food, they'll come to our porch, and they'll walk right up to you, and they'll stare at you, and it's actually very creepy.
They do
You're like,
have.
just-
Yeah.
Don't bite me. Don't get on top of me. Like they're like, feed me now.
For years, my grandpa had left out a feeder and was feeding this one albino squirrel that would always come over
cool.
and eat there, and it just became a thing. I was like, oh, the albino squirrel is outside. I love that little guy.
Did you ever see the video of the guy who's in Nova Scotia who's feeding all of the raccoons?
Yes.
It's wild.
It's very Toronto.
So
energy
many
right there.
raccoons. There have to be 24 of them or so, and he's just pulling out all of the treats and spreading them out, and they're crawling all over him to get all the food.
I would not do
would-
that. It's not advised.
I would not do that, dude.
It's really not advised. First of all, yeah, you shouldn't be feeding animals. We all know that, but I don't know. I like just the fact that urban life is intertwining with animal life and just the challenges and the interesting things that come from that, and good and bad. Lots of bad.
We're
but
all
some
trying
good.
to get by. Even the raccoons.
I love it when there's
All
like a
scared.
video of like a bear on someone's porch, and they're just like, you gotta move on. There was a video like that with the Canadian. You gotta get out of my backyard, dude. Thank you. Have a nice day.
As for me, I don't have too much to add except to say that So IGN is doing its IGN first around Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and Alex released her first hands-on preview of it, and we'll talk more about this very soon, probably like next week or so. But I agree with everything that she said. I thought it was very impressive and a very polished experience, especially given everything that this game has gone through to actually get made. It was a lot of fun to play, and I can't wait to play more. I just thought it was funny that so the rook that I created in Dragon Age: The Veilguard is this elf lady with flowing purple hair.
Wait, that was the character you created?
Yes.
You've made like an icon unknowingly.
I know. That's what I wanted to talk about was okay. Like I talked about this on X, but the backstory of that character is we were sitting down and we were messing around with the character creator, and I was trying all the different sliders, and I created this monster person with a giant chin and everything. Just
Jay Leno
to
rides
see
again.
how messed up we could possibly get, and I was looking at all of the little different options. There's a lot of options in this one, actually. You can have fun with the body morpher and the various features. There's some real Monster Factory stuff going on here.
Yeah, I love Monster Factory stuff.
There came a point where they said, okay, but seriously, make a character so that we can get properly underway. So I said, oh, okay. So I went back in and I used like one of the templates, and I messed around slightly with the cheekbones and stuff. I was like, oh, these tattoos look really nice. And then when I found the hairstyle, I'm like, yes, that's it. I got the hairstyle.
It all clicked. It all clicked into place.
It all clicked. The template's really easy to use. I made this thing in probably 5 minutes. I just whipped up this character really, really fast and was immediately satisfied and was playing with them. And I think the secret is the hair in this game looks incredible. Just off the hook good. It's using the technology from the sports games. It's using FIFA hair.
FIFA hair.
It makes sense.
They really put a lot of... I have to say, Dragon Age: The Veilguard might be the first legit win I can think of in more than a decade for the Frostbite engine. A Frostbite engine has been a disaster for EA for so long. And this game, it looks great. It looks really great in motion, plays really well, and that hair is just phenomenal. So half of it is I think people are just reacting to the pretty strong art style and the phenomenal looking hair, but I do think it's funny that the rook that I created in like 5 minutes is everywhere, and people are like, do you know the settings for this? I want to make this rook too. And so at some point, maybe when Dragon Age: The Veilguard releases, I'll put out a video with the exact, here's how to make that one rook that you love from all of the videos.
What was her name?
But Cat. I think I just named her Cat.
Well, it's kind of in the tradition of Dark Cat.
Yeah, Dark Cat. I name a lot of my characters Flyer, which is a callback to a character from high school. But this one I named Cat. So yeah, go check out Alex's Dragon Age: The Veilguard coverage. It was really good, and like I said, I fully agree with all of her sentiments on it. And I've got some more pieces coming up really soon. I'm writing up a piece next week that I'll be posting on IGN.com, and I have a really, really big piece with tons of interviews that'll be going up at the end of the month, and that'll be kind of our grand finale. And then stay tuned for even more hands-on impressions, probably next week, I would say. In the meantime, I just want to finish by saying that our Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough continued. It's in episode 2, The Adventures of Dark Cat and Crash Into Boys, and also, what's your character's name, Nadia? I forget.
Long, Pennsylvania.
Long, Pennsylvania continues, and if you weren't paying attention the first time, it's sort of like a crime boss, a drow crime boss with her 2 bumbling minions, the Rocksteady and Bebop of the Baldur's Gate 3 world.
Bebop.
And Eric, I think
Emi's
Eric is
definitely
winning.
Rocksteady.
Eric is winning in terms of role playing. He's definitely found Crash into Boys' voice,
Boy.
and this week Crash into Boys found religion.
Well, I was really lost and really got into Bahamut. Dragon came, talked to me, said, there's a lot out there, fella. There's a lot out there in life. Like dragons.
I can't
Dragons
get
are a
through a
good
single
motivation.
Crash into Boys live without giggling. I love my character.
No, Bahamut.
Praise Bahamut. Crash into Boys was a barbarian, but really just in the middle of the night was visited by visions of Bahamut and was like, oh, that's cool. And now is a missionary for the good word of Bahamut as a cleric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we
And I-
said we
Bahamut
wanted
feel like
Karlach in the
drinking?
party.
yeah,
Karlach's been the MVP in all of the encounters. Like she goes in with reckless attack and just messes up enemies.
She's a bit
Meanwhile,
OP.
I'm very fragile, so I keep getting, and we keep taking on encounters that are really kind
Like
of
a
above our
level higher
level.
than us,
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did the hag bit, which was really I didn't do that till later in the game. That was a rough one to do at our level.
It's
But-
fine. It's not that hard.
Well, what's fun about this is that Baldur's Gate has so many pathways, and there's no way you're gonna see them all with the first playthrough. So, like with our playthrough, like I'm the druid, so I have good animal handling, and I talked to a sheep that belonged to the hag, and when I talked to it, the illusion dissolved because I passed that check. And that was the first time I'd seen like these idiot red cap imps like walking around going bah bah in this swamp and still like thinking that you are seeing them as sheep was really funny.
Yeah. I like our playthrough a lot because I think we're finding a good like balance between playing Baldur's Gate 3 the game and playing D&D the tabletop
Yeah.
game, like we're having fun playing the actual game of Baldur's Gate 3, but there's also a lot of role playing and headcanoning going on that's like adding to it. So I think it really just shows that like Larian captured the spirit of what they were trying to do. They got the idea down, and I'd played some co-op before, but I think it's really clicking for me now with this group that like this is an effective way to maybe dip a toe into tabletop gaming if you've ever been curious about it.
I'm playing as the Dark Urge, and I got the first Dark Urge cutscene.
Oh my
Yeah, you
god, that
did.
was so terrible.
Very dark.
I
Very
like that
dark.
character.
I know. And what's funny was that I was covered in blood. And it's like, you got away
noticed.
with murder. And I'm like, did I?
Did I?
You really
Everyone
did
just
get
wakes
away
up,
with
"Good
murder."
morning."
Yeah. Like everyone else is like, oh, that's weird. You're covered in more ketchup than normal. And like,
And I'm like, good morning. Nothing
How are
happened at night. I don't know what that stench is. Ha 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 ha.
Crash is over there like, oh, Bahamut.
And Lonk is just like, oh, Scratch came to the camp and he's petting him because, oh my god, doggy, and there's blood all over
dog.
cat.
I'm trying to play my character sort of realistically. I'm playing her as very cold and aloof, and I'm relying on just intimidation checks wherever possible. But it's really hard to override my desire to be nice and have everybody like me.
That's why
So
I
I
didn't
have to
play
keep
the Dark
reminding
Urge.
myself, my character is kind of mean. Be mean. And then I also love that when you're the Dark Urge, every single character you can talk to, you have the dialogue choice of, I have these urges. I want to murder everybody. They're full of blood. And it's like, well, nice to
full of
meet you
blood.
too.
Would you like to buy a potion?
It's actually really
This
hard
is a Wendy's.
Sorry, this is a Wendy's.
playthrough. Because when you're playing evil, you have to really lean into it. And people are not going to like you. And you're going to mess things up. That's what people don't really seem to understand about evil playthroughs. But I think Baldur's Gate 3 captures it really well.
I think
I agree.
I think what Baldur's Gate 3 does that I've liked more than other games that have tried to have evil characters or whatever is that when you're playing the Dark Urge, you do really feel like a good tension between like, do I want to give
Yes.
in to the Dark Urge or do I want to fight the Dark Urge? And I think that is a more interesting question than like Paragon Renegade, for example, which is like I think works within the confines of what Mass Effect does, but I think as a broad system of like, do you want to be good or evil? It's not super great. It's more like, what version of good do you want to be? But here it's like your characters, they do bad things. Like you have done bad things. How do you feel about that? And I think that's an interesting question that does feel like, again, a GM sitting at the table being like, this thing has happened. How do you feel about it? Because it encourages you to role play. It encourages you to like think about your character. Yeah. More than like what do you want to do?
Yeah, you can try to hide it, which I did. Or you can
did.
I did hide it. I did hide the murders. Or you can kind of face up to it with your party. So I'm walking the dark path in many ways. It's like I hid the fact that I did a murder from everybody else.
Like,
but
yeah, we know you're a drow. You're like racist.
I know. Hey, don't be racist.
Oh, it's D&D. That's like everything in D&D is like, well, what race are you? That's how we're going to react.
I'm getting a lot of racism as a drow from various characters, I have to say. But we talked about this last week, and it's not a new point, but I just think it's so special that this game has multiplayer co-op. And the extent to which Larian has worked to make this work.
Yes.
And I think it really takes Baldur's Gate 3 to another level. I don't replay many RPGs these days because I'm a very busy woman and I have a lot to do in my daily life. But it feels great to be replaying Baldur's Gate 3 and revisiting it in a completely different context.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I really don't feel like I'm being repetitive at all. I feel like this is a totally different experience than
It
before.
really does feel like an RPG module or several modules that you can kind of play at your own, in your own order. Because to me, it really does feel like a whole new game, pretty much. There's so much I didn't see, so much I didn't do.
I'm curious with patch 7, especially now that people have access to like the full like toolkit and all that. Like PC players, PC modders have already like gotten through some of the like restrictions and are like getting access to everything that you can do with Baldur's Gate 3. I am curious like what comes of that, and probably not anything in the near future, but like the idea that this could one day get a Fallout London or something like that, right, is really exciting.
I think it will someday. Yeah. Absolutely. For now, nude mods.
We're gonna be exactly. I mean, surely they already exist.
After this pod ends, Nadia's already like working away. Got the Matrix screen up, working on it.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark made this nude mod in a cave with a box of scraps.
I'm sure that the new mods already exist, but we're planning on doing this every couple weeks on Wednesdays, so please.
Bless you.
What was
I know. Live on stream.
Oh my god,
Well,
Cat's
now
gonna
it's
die.
just excessive.
Sneezing.
I think I have the allergies or something.
Weather changes always do that to me.
I know. Oh, hold on.
I'm light
my
sensitive
God.
too. I sneeze in the light.
Is there a cat in the room or something? Like,
Oh no.
I don't know what. Maybe it's dust. Maybe we've been kicking up a lot of dust.
Okay, no, never mind.
Okay, we got this.
We can do this.
Okay. We're going to be doing this every couple of weeks on Wednesdays, so make sure to tune in on twitch.tv/bloodgodpod.
And VODs will be going up on
that's
the YouTube too, by the way.
Yes.
Very much so.
Goodness.
That's it for the tavern. Nadia, take us home.
I really wanted to sneeze at the end of that. That would have been great.
I was like going, don't sneeze, don't sneeze. Nadia, take us home.
I'm getting new glasses, everybody, and guess what? They are progressive. I cannot see anymore. My
Yay.
eyes just decided, you know what? Focusing is for losers. And so now if I want to play Switch or look at my phone, I have to take off my glasses. So I went and I got progressive lenses, and I actually went to a new optometrist. I've been going to the same one all my life, but he retired. And it was kind of weird because he had really stayed in the past. So I'm looking at all this new technology like, oh man, this, those machines that blow air in your eyes and it really sucks? I'm like, wow, this is actually a lot better. This is actually modern. But the one thing I will miss, though, is that when I used to get a pair of glasses, because, again, this guy was my optometrist forever, I used to put them on, and he used to, like, have me go look outside to see what I could see. And the marker for my new glasses every single time was Sneaky D's, which is, the Sneaky D's from Scott Pilgrim. So kind of look at that wacky sign and see, if I could see it, I was good. If I couldn't see it, well, whatever. But my question was, when did your eyes crap out on you? Because I think I first remembered having problems when I was like 8.
Oh yeah, we're all wearing glasses, aren't we? Aren't we?
We really are.
3rd or 4th grade was the initial crap out for me, where it was like I was just having trouble reading the board. Sometimes it's a little blurry, and they took me in and they're like, oh yeah. And I've never really my eyes hovered at minus 2.75 for a long time. I memorized that for some reason. And I went through contacts and stuff like that. But then earlier, oh my God, that was this year. This year has been eternal. Earlier this year, I found out I have a condition in at least one of my eyes called keratoconus, where my retina balloons outwards, and if allowed to continue, it would eventually like that. So,
Yay!
Yeah, so I had surgery done where they cut it open and put some drops in there to kind of stabilize the retina and stuff like that. So that was a new fun thing, and now I have an astigmatism and all that. So I found out that yes, eyes do get worse and weirder as life goes on. But luckily, outside of being stabbed in the eye, voluntarily, that's the only thing I've really run into.
Yeah, my eyesight started to fade when I was 12.
Yeah.
And I got glasses, and I was very reluctant to wear glasses because I was like, oh my God, people will think I'm a nerd. Bad news, Kat. You're already a nerd. There was nothing that was going to be changing about that. But I wouldn't wear the glasses like an idiot. And then when I was in 8th grade, I was sitting in the back, and I literally could not see the board, but I still refused to wear glasses because I was a teenager. And I did not really start wearing glasses full time until college, when my eyesight finally got bad enough that it became a problem to A, drive, and B, be able to see the board. And now I feel like my face looks weird without the glasses.
I agree. I don't know what you'd look like.
I'm I don't like to take my glasses off.
Yeah, I used to wear contacts, but now it's I don't know, my eyes are kind of sunken and weird, so I don't really wear contacts anymore.
I wore contacts for a long time. I did like wearing contacts, because not to be vain, but I like my eyes, and so I kind of don't like hiding them behind glasses.
They're very pretty eyes.
I got told once that it looks like an Arctic wolf could jump through my eyes, jump out from my eyes, and I like that.
Dang,
I was
son. That's pretty cool.
But I don't know, contacts didn't agree with me. I would wear them too long, and they would irritate my eyes and stuff. And so I was like, glasses, I'll just stick with that. It's not that bad of a thing. I don't know. Glasses aren't terrible. Outside of right now when I'm wearing these headphones and they're kind of being pressed into my skull. But
I hate when they slide off your nose and the heat. I don't like glasses. And it's funny when now glasses are kind of popular. And of course, I think everyone's eyesight is shit now because of screens. So everyone wears glasses.
Yes.
But when I was a kid, it was still pretty rare for someone to have glasses. I was one of the only people in my class, and yes, you're right, Kat, glasses were for nerds. So I was always told, oh, you're a girl, don't wear them, you have to look good, and I couldn't see, it doesn't matter, you look so much better without your glasses, you shouldn't be wearing them, you'll get used to them, whatever the fuck that means. Get used to seeing the board, the chalkboard, yeah, I can get used to that, dumbasses. But yeah, everyone was like, oh, take off your glasses, you shouldn't wear them, you're a girl, and it's I can't see without my bloody glasses. I'm sorry, my eyes suck. My mother was born with weird ass eyes. She has this thing where she's almost blind in one eye, but her other eye is fine, and she's supposed to wear glasses to even out the eyes, but she doesn't. She looks through her good eye and turns off her bad eye. She turns it off, she ignores it. She's like, can't everyone do that? And we all freaked out, and she told us about that. No! Why are you, a chameleon?
Here's the thing. Now that I have an astigmatism, I know exactly what she's talking about, because there are times where you're just it's not that you turn it off. You just I don't know. It's like there to provide
One eye
context.
becomes more favorite than the other.
Oh yeah. And that's the annoying thing is like what's the joke from Blazing Saddles? Like, yeah, but I shoot with this hand. Like this was my shooting eye, and so now like I feel like my balance and my aim is all off and stuff like that. So
yeah, because I have an astigmatism. The 3DS never really worked for me because the 3D sort of actively hurt. The funny thing about glasses is how the styles have changed over the years. So when I was very small, I got the big 90s glasses.
Yeah,
and
then thick frames.
And I was like, oh my god, they're humongous. And then the late 90s, they became very tiny, itty bitty frames, and everybody was wearing itty bitty, absolutely tiny Matrix glasses. And then they got big again. So it's just
they go back and forth. Yeah.
When I worked as a dog groomer, I used to wear contacts because you get wet, dogs shake, and you can't see anything because your glasses are covered. God help you if you got hair in your eye, but that's another thing. One time my contacts weren't, they're just being bad. I didn't wear them into work. I just put on my glasses for the first time probably ever, and I came in, and the woman I worked with said, "Do you have bad eyesight?" And I said, "Yeah, it's really bad. How did you know?" And she said, "Your eyes are huge under your glasses."
My eyes are tiny under my glasses.
No, my eyes are like...
That's one of the things that drives me crazy is they're tiny and squinty. But I do have hazel eyes, and so they're blue, so they're green and brown flecked with blue, and so I do love the coloration of the eyes.
I do like my eyes are very blue. Like they are dark blue, and I think they're nice. Like they're very much on the Irish side of my family. We all got this. My mother's eyes. My poor dad didn't get any of us.
I was really happy when, like, for my birthday when I was young, I got a Game Boy. It was like the Game Boy Pocket, and it came with Link's Awakening because my dad like asked the clerk at the store, like, "Hey, what game should I get for like my son? I'm getting him a Game Boy," and the clerk, goated as he was like, "This is the game you want to get." And so Link's Awakening, that was like the first game I ever played on my own Game Boy, and it was like ice blue, and it was like the exact same color as my eyes, like literally the same thing, and I loved it. It was the coolest thing. So shout outs to having stuff that is like our eye color. I don't know why that feels so special, but it does.
Yeah, I can wear, my favorite color is blue because I can match my eyes.
And on that note, that's it for this week's episode of Acts of the Blood God. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for your generous support to our Stars of Destiny and the rest of our patrons. If you enjoy the show, go and support us, patreon.com/bloodgodpod. We're heading now into the Acts of the Blood God post show with the Stars of Destiny, so be sure to hang around and check that. Remember, we are on Twitch every single Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, twitch.tv/bloodgodpod. So you can come in, hang out, and interact with us, and it's a lot of fun. It's a party every single Saturday, and make sure to check out our rest of our streams. Like and subscribe. In the meantime, I've been your host, Kat Bailey. We'll see you again next week, but until then, for Nadia, Eric, myself, thanks for listening, and happy adventuring.